Hey friends, welcome to the Angie and Brooke Show. Let her out to play. I'm Angie, your host, a teenage mom turned multi-six-figure earner, married to the same man for nearly 40 years. I'm a homeschooling mom of 7 and totally unqualified, at least on paper, but wildly called by God. Remember, He doesn't call the qualified, He qualifies the called. Here, we are going to talk about it all. Healing from the hard stuff, building a business with heart, raising a big family, walking in faith, and finally breaking free from the lies that said we weren't enough. So if you're ready to stop playing small, shake off the doubt and the shame, and step fully into who you were created to be, girl, you are in the right place. Let's go. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Angie and Brooke Show. And I know you hear this every single time, pretty much, that I start my podcast. But the truth is, if I wasn't super passionate about my guests that I bring on, it might be kind of boring. And so I can flat guarantee you today's episode is not going to be boring. This is my beautiful friend, Brooke Hemingway. We met, gosh, I don't even know, but we were in the same room together in 2019. And I was just so attracted to the vibe that she was giving off, her passion for so many things that I remember thinking every opportunity that I have to be in this woman's room, I am going to do it. She knew how to light my fire. She knew how to dig things out of me, quite honestly, that I had forgotten were there. And so that in itself makes me a little bit emotional. But I just want to introduce you to my beautiful friend, Brooke. She has been married to her sweetheart for 27 years. They have 6 amazing kids. And in the midst of all of that, which might seem like craziness with having a lot of kids, I'm all about that. She actually is an 8-figure earner with multiple businesses, and she has so much that she's going to be unpacking for us today. So, welcome, my friend, to the show today.
Thank you for having me. I was feeling a little bit emotional too when you were saying that because I really feel like it's such an honor to be able to be in someone's life and to be able to be a part of their story. And I've always felt like I can't take credit for anyone's success or failure, but I get to be a part of the path. And having seen you over the last, 6 years, even having this podcast, like you blurted it out on a stage at a line, and it's kind of like I kind of make you hold your feet to the fire a little bit.
Yes, you do.
But I feel like it's because I see so much in the women that I'm around. And before you hit record, you were like, "Okay, what's some accolades you want me to share?" And I said, "Well, I think that my favorite one is that my favorite job is mom and that I am absolutely obsessed with my kids. They don't rule my life, but I'm obsessed with them. And I love that they love each other and they're
Mhm.
for each other and that they love us. But the thing that I actually thought of after when you hit record was I want to be known as someone who is obedient to God, even when she didn't want to be. And that's the thing that I'm most proud of because, you talking about these rooms that you've been in or these things that I've created, I think people think I've just absolutely love it. And it's like, oh my gosh, like she's just dying to do all of this stuff. And the truth is I get the inspiration, I get the nod, and it's like, but I really don't want to do that. But that's going to be a lot of work. I'm already so busy. I have these
Yeah.
kids, like all this stuff. But at the end of my life, I want to be able to say, I was obedient and I did the thing that I was supposed to do.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that so much. And I have seen you love those kids in such great capacity over the years, and it drew me to you because I myself have a lot of kids, and being a homeschool mom for so many years myself. This is year 26, which sounds so crazy. I remember when I had homeschooled for like a couple months, and I met someone who'd homeschooled for 10 years, and I was like, oh, I can't imagine that ever being me. Like, am I gonna do this? Like, I'm just a couple months in. But, looking back, I'm like, it was one of the best things that I ever did for my family. I know everyone isn't in that camp, but for our family, it was, and it kept us bonded. I know you guys, have homeschooled at different times, and are some of your kids homeschooled now?
Yeah.
Okay, I
Yeah,
thought so.
actually, it's funny, before we hopped on this podcast, my 14-year-old, who he's 14 and a half, almost 15 actually. Holy cow, where did the last year go? Okay. So he's almost 15 and he's outside playing in the snow, building forts and building snowmen with my 10 and my 8-year-old daughters. And I looked at my husband and I said, this is one of the coolest parts about homeschooling Jacob, because most 14 or 15-year-old boys will have nothing to do with their younger siblings. They
Hmm.
want to be on their phones, they want to be with their friends, they want to be talking to girls, they want to be playing video games. And I'm like, Jacob has not completely lost the magic of just having fun and being a kid.
Yeah.
And so our teenage boys all have been homeschooled since, gosh, 2020. And then a couple of years interspersed throughout when they were younger. But once COVID happened, we took
Hmm.
them out. Our daughters, who are 8 and 10, when they were really little, life was really moving full steam ahead, and our girls really wanted to go to school. So our
Hmm.
girls do go to elementary school, but they'll follow a similar path as our boys. And
Yeah.
I think to those listening, like you might be like, I can't relate to that, or there's no way I would want to do that. I think that most people say that because they're afraid.
Yeah.
They're afraid of what it's going to look like. They're afraid they're going to mess up. They're afraid it's going to be too hard. They're afraid their kids are going to be socially awkward. Like everybody tells me how like amazing our kids are and they can
Yeah.
have conversations and they can get along in any room. And I'm like, I don't get the social awkward thing. But so I would say
Hmm.
just don't be afraid of it. It really has afforded us, and I'm sure for you, freedom to live life in a more creative, expansive way because
Hmm.
we get to travel and we get to,
Yeah.
do the things that we want to do. So there's pluses and minuses.
Yeah, yeah. That was one of the big things that two things when we were start homeschooling. And I know you know the story about me. Like I don't have a college degree. I always let that hold me, allow that to hold me back. And people will be like, well, you don't even have a college degree. How are you going to homeschool your kids? I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't know. I'm so scared. What about socialization? And my husband would always say, the socialization piece, that is exactly where we're going to homeschool our kids because we want to be the ones socializing them. And what you said about Jacob playing with the younger kids. So our youngest is 17 and we have all these grandkids. And so just yesterday, we spent 4 hours at my daughter's house. She has 5 kids, 10 and under. Both of my younger sons, one's 23, one is 17. They spent 4 hours playing with their nieces and nephews, not on their phones, not playing video games, just having the
Exactly.
best time.
Yes, exactly. That was us last night too. Like they were playing Risk and we were playing trains, and like I was like, this is a dream. Like
Yeah.
this is what I always had hoped for
Hmm.
my kids to really grow up as best friends, not with 5 million people outside of their family. And I
Yeah.
think there's value in having friendships outside of your family. But I
Hmm.
honestly feel like, and I know we'll get into this with entrepreneurship, is that the best friendships actually happen when you're an adult.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the child ones, those are great and everything, but for me, it's been the adult friendships. And so for them to be so close, I know that that's going to be a gift for their entire life because
Right.
family is with you forever, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. Yes. I love that. So, okay, so let's get into some of this. So, we originally met through a network marketing company that we were both involved in, and that is how I got into the first room with you. I remember you posting about this retreat you were having, and I was like, oh my gosh, I've got to go to this. And so, you have gone to the top of this network marketing company 3 different times. Now, girlfriend, that is not luck, that is leadership. And so I would love to know, what do you know about building at the highest level that most people they completely miss out on?
Oh gosh, I mean, there's a lot that I could say about it. First of all, I love network marketing. I will always be in network marketing. I'm super grateful for it. I'm not someone that's like, I've outgrown that. I'm too good for that. I'm just only going to go do other things. And I think actually, for those of you listening that think network marketing isn't cool, it's actually becoming really, really cool.
Yeah.
And people that are famous, that are on TV, that have big personal brands or other companies outside of network marketing are seeing that it is the bomb.com, that it's amazing to be able to build residual income, to expand your network because your network is your net worth, and to
Hmm.
also improve in every other skill. I mean, I learned how to speak. I learned how to coach. I learned how to write social media content. I learned how to sell and market. I learned so many skills and I learned who I am through this profession. But what I would say maybe was one of the keys that set me apart and helped me to do what I did because I did. I made six figures by 5 months, a quarter of a million by 11 months. I was making seven figures by about 3 years in. And I went to the top of the company three times within 4.5 years.
Hmm.
And I don't say that to brag. I say that because the reason why I did that is because the number one thing I did not expect is I did not expect it to be easy. And I did not expect anyone to do it for me or show me how to do it. And for whatever reason, I realized nobody was coming to save me. Nobody was responsible for me to skill up, to level up, to mindset up, to do
Yeah.
any of that stuff. And I feel like a lot of people like to share memes like that and they
Hmm.
like to talk like that. But if you're actually walking their walk, there's a bit of resentment or there's a bit of like, well, so and so should help me, or why doesn't anyone give me that leg up, or I'm the only one that this happens to, or I'm the
Yeah.
only one that gets told no. And for whatever reason, the good Lord blessed me with a very realistic brain
Yeah.
and an understanding that if this was going to work, I was going to have to learn a lot. And so I didn't
Hmm.
expect it to be easy. But the second thing is I became a student of the profession. I studied everything that I could. I watched videos, I read books, not just within my company, but outside in the industry. I wanted to learn everything that I could learn. And as I was learning, I applied it. So I
Yeah.
wasn't just consuming, it was like I would watch this thing and then I would go try it. And I was not naturally amazing at it. I think that's the
Mhm.
other thing people think is like, oh, well, you just have it or you don't. The truth is the people that really have it have practiced. They've put in the repetitions and I just think that sometimes we have an instant gratification mindset nowadays. And so we
Mhm.
think it should be easier, but you don't get to amass the kind of wealth or leadership organization or residual income because I also still earn like our annual incentive trip on all three jewel positions. I'm
Mhm.
not like I hit it once and then I went back, and I'm not making fun of people
Yeah.
that do that, but I have built a business that has sustained and that has continued to bless our family's life. But it was because I did not expect it to be easy. I did not wait for someone to come and show me the way. I decided I was going to steward the ship and I
Yeah.
was going to get really, really good at it. And I promise you, if you're listening, no matter where you are, if you stop expecting someone else to do it and you start digging in and learning and absorbing and applying, you could
Mhm.
be successful too.
Yeah. I 100% believe that. I did have some network marketing experience before I got into this particular company, and it was different. Like back in the day when you didn't do social media, or social media wasn't even a thing, I should say. And I used to have to go do home parties and do all the things. So I had a little bit of experience with that, but doing it on social media definitely has been a little bit different. I know when I started, I had I don't know, less than 1,000 friends on. I was kind of anti social media, to be quite honest with
Yes.
you. I was like, I don't want to do that. But so, what about you? Like, tell us a little bit about your story. How did
Yeah.
you get started in it? And were you thinking, oh, I'm someday going to do network marketing because that just sounds amazing?
No, honestly, when I started, it was a little over 10 years ago at the time of this recording, and I was not looking for something else because I had just given birth to our fifth. I had five that were nine and under, and I didn't live around any kind of family, so I didn't have any family support, didn't have a house cleaner, didn't have any, there's no Instacart on Kauai, okay?
Yeah.
There's no grocery delivery, there is nothing like that. And so it was me, myself, and I because my husband worked at three hospitals at least 80 hours a week. And so I wasn't looking for a business. I was like so many people in network marketing, I was looking for an answer to a problem. And the problem I had was energy, depression, anxiety, all those kinds of things. Like I was really struggling to mom and to
Mhm.
adults. So found the product, loved the product, and I was just invited to tell other people about it. My business started from a genuine place of I'm so grateful that I feel good. I have to tell other people.
Yeah.
And so that's why I started was just I was so grateful, but I didn't have a following. I wasn't I moved around a lot growing up. You went to 18 schools. I moved like from state to state to state, like across the country. And when you do that when you're young, you don't necessarily make super deep connections with people because you're always like, well, when am I going to move again? And
Yeah.
it's just going to break my heart. And so I had some friendships, but I'm not a girl that grew up somewhere and like has these lifelong friends and had the sorority sisters. And like I had 150 Facebook friends. Like
Mhm.
that was my world. But I just decided I was going to put it out there. I put a post up, and turns out that I didn't have to have a lot of people following me. It was more about did people trust me and did they know my character? And from that one post, because people did trust me, I hadn't been the girl that was lying about things. Like I was actually living the healthy lifestyle, and I wasn't talking about 10 million different things. They trusted me. I got my first 8 customers, and I
Yeah.
was like, well, I guess I'm doing this.
Mhm.
And so like I said earlier, I was like, well, I have to learn how to use social media because I didn't even know how to tag. I didn't know how to find a Facebook group. I literally was Facebook illiterate. I wasn't
Yeah.
even on Instagram. This is late 2015, early 2016. And so I became a student of it. Just
Yeah.
like with everything else, it was like, well, if I'm going to do this, and I felt this pull, I felt this tug. I mean, it was God. He was like telling me, do this. Like, this is good. It was just
Yeah.
kind of this feeling of like, this is good. You should do
Mhm.
this. And you know me, Angie, if I'm going to do anything, I want
Yeah.
to do it well. And so
Yeah.
I studied and learned and gradually grew my social media. But even today, I don't have a huge social media following. I have about 18,000 on Instagram and 17,000 following on Facebook. And I could say some things about making money with a smaller following if you want me to.
Yeah. Go right ahead, girl. The world
Well,
is your oyster, or my podcast is.
yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people listening have this idea that they have to have a huge following.
Mhm.
And sometimes when we're building a network marketing business, a coaching business, a community, whatever it is we're building, we feel frustrated because we don't feel like we have enough eyeballs. And
Mhm.
we feel like we've got to have a huge following. By the time I'd gone to the top of the company a third time, and at that point, I already had a coaching business, 850 people on subscription, making $25,000 a month in my coaching business, not too shabby,
Yeah.
right? And so by the time I did that, I only had a few thousand followers on Instagram, Facebook, maybe 9 or 10,000. So it didn't have a huge following. But here's the difference, and I've been talking about this a little bit more lately, is a lot of people are building an image online or they're selling something online, but they're not focusing enough on creating what's called a living brand. A living brand is being living proof of the thing that you are teaching and
Yeah.
preaching.
Mhm.
And so, what I mean is, if people are not buying from you and you don't have the customers coming in and the thing isn't growing, you have to take a look at, am I living what I'm selling? Am I living what I'm teaching? Am I
Mhm.
showing people? And maybe you are living it, but you're not showing people. You're
Yeah.
not showing people the behind the scenes of the workout or cooking the steak like Angie does, or going on the date with your husband, or actually spending time with your kids. So you might be talking about time freedom, but all people can see is you work and you're with your team and you're just killing it in the business. But they're like, but where's the rest of her life? Right? Or
Yeah.
you keep gaining and losing and gaining and losing and gaining and losing the same 20 pounds.
Yeah.
That's not living proof. And it's not
Mhm.
about perfection, but nowadays, especially for those of you that want to build a business and you're using social media, you need to understand that we are in what my friend Brody calls a trust recession. And the trust recession is going to get even bigger because we've all been promised so many things on social media.
Mhm.
People just aren't buying it anymore
Yeah.
unless you are living proof. And
Mhm.
so I think all throughout my journey, I've been able to, I'm not a bajillionaire, right? I'm not that kind of success,
Yeah.
but I make pretty good money. And
Yeah.
I've really created a beautiful lifestyle because I've been living proof throughout. I've showed people what works, I've showed them what doesn't work. I've been pretty consistent in how I've showed up. I've been pretty consistent in my health. You don't see me yo yoing all over the place or jumping from this fad to that fad. And that is what builds trust. And if you want to
Mhm.
have a successful business, you have to focus on trust with your customers or with your followers. So
Yeah.
don't get obsessed with the vanity metrics. get obsessed with actually becoming the embodiment or the living truth of what it is you're trying to sell.
Mhm. No, I love that. And I think it's so true because I think we've been, I don't know, brainwashed is the right word to say, in thinking that we have to have tons and tons of followers. Because the truth is, from my experience, is that most of the follower, like say for instance on Instagram, I don't know most of the people that follow me on Instagram, and I just hit 1,900 followers like yesterday, and I was like, but in my mind, I'm always thinking, "Gosh, I gotta get that number up, I gotta get that number up." But it is the right people that you get
Yes.
there. It doesn't not matter of the huge number, but the right people getting in there. And for me personally, I built my business through Facebook. Instagram was just kind of a side thing that happened a couple years ago.
Right.
But I 100% agree with what you're saying is that you can build a sustainable business and not have a gazillion followers, if that's even a thing. Like, how much is even a gazillion? I don't even know.
I don't know.
I don't know what that number is, but
Focus on the
but
right things, right?
yeah,
Focus
exactly.
on going deeper with
Mhm.
less people and being more sincere and genuinely connected to
Yeah,
people.
yeah.
Because we tend to focus on the massive quantity when really in any business, it's a small circle of people that
Mhm.
will make up the majority of your income because they also will become the raving fans, the
Yeah.
super happy customers that are going to bring in more customers. And so you really have to check in with yourself and be like, okay, where is vanity and the need to be significant coming in and overtaking the actual impact and income that I could be making.
Mhm. Yeah, 100%. And I had one other thing that was on my mind after that, and now I've lost it. I need to, like, write down my little notes. My husband and I do this little thing, we have something we wanna say so we don't forget about it, and then I go and forget about it, but
Love
maybe
it.
it'll come back to me, who knows? So the other thing that I wanted to hone in on a little bit more in your businesses is that you host retreats, masterminds, align, which in my mind, I'm like, it's a combination of all the things. And I want you to talk about a little bit more about that with us. But you fill rooms with women and men, and what do you feel like really like pulls women in that helps them shift inside so that they can be in the right room and they can allow themselves to, or maybe it's kicking and screaming like it was with me. Like I wasn't allowing myself to get vulnerable, but I ended up doing it. And I just wonder, like, what is your thought on that when you host these retreats and these events that really are changing so many women, myself included? What do you
Mm.
think that is that shifts inside of them?
Well, I think that darkness thrives in isolation. And our doubts grow in isolation, and we are hardwired for connection. So, if I even just go back to just the way that God created us, as He created us to connect with others, and He wants us to feel like we belong. But I think it's such a common human characteristic to feel like we don't belong anywhere. And
Yeah.
so when we don't belong, we isolate, we keep to ourselves, or we stay behind the screen on the phone or on the computer. And you know this about me is like I've always insisted that a line be live. And of course, I could maybe sell a virtual ticket. Maybe I'd make 10 or 20 extra $1,000. But I feel like there's such value behind actually getting in the room. And it's not just to get in the room. It's to be in the right room where you can be surrounded by people who are thinking about going for bigger things, who are doing
Mhm.
bigger things, who are doing different things. When you get in the right circles, you can't stay the same. You
Yeah.
cannot stay the same. You will, like, if you're in a bad circle, you're going to go downhill. If you're in a good circle, you're going to go uphill. And so I've created these spaces, number one, because I personally never felt like I belonged. And I was
Yeah.
like, I can't be alone in that. Like other people have to feel that way.
Yeah.
Turns out I'm right.
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Number 2, dreams die in isolation, and so I
Mhm.
wanna bring people out of isolation and get them connected to other people so they realize they're not crazy, and they realize there's other people out there that are also dreaming about doing big things. Number 3, I wanted to create rooms where we were talking about ideas, where we were talking about our goals and our dreams, we were talking about what's next, we weren't talking about the problems, we weren't talking about other people, but we were talking about how we could collaborate, how we could help each other. And I wanted to create this like non-competitive space
Yeah.
where everyone could feel like their ideas were not crazy.
Mhm.
And I think if I go back to 2019, that first retreat that I did that you went to, honestly, my intention behind ever starting to do events and continues to be my intention is because I believe that the devil goes after people who are trying to set people free. And so I know that's not just me. I know that it
Mhm.
could be you in your wellness business. I know that it could be someone else in their podcast, or it could be someone else in their life coaching business or their branding business or whatever. Maybe they do retreats themselves. But I wanted to help more people that were trying to do good work in the world, trying to change people's lives, have more courage, take
Mhm.
bigger, bolder action, trust that, God was with them, that everything was going to work out. And I wanted people to stop believing the lies. I wanted them to stop believing all the head trash, all the mind chatter, because I think I had it some of the worst of it. And I still have to do the process of working through that nowadays. And I knew if I learned how to do it, I needed to teach other people how to do it
Yeah.
because I think this is actually the work that we came here to do. Like, this is the
Mhm.
work we came here to do. People think it's about making money. They think it's about a business. They think it's about, whatever, whatever. And I'm like, no, actually, what I'm doing is I'm helping people to wake up, believe in who God created them to be, put their work out there into the world, stop being
Mhm.
ashamed, stop being afraid, stop being embarrassed, stop thinking it's bad to make money. Like,
Yeah.
I'm here to do that. And I'm here to do that because I used to think the same things. I used to
Right.
struggle with the same things. And
Yeah.
so that's the intention, like the deepest root reason why I create any of these rooms. And if I were to start all over again today, I would have done it sooner. And if
Yeah.
you're listening, and you want to build something, I would say start gathering people now. Start gathering people, whether it's 3, 5, 7, 10, 20. Start bringing people together in your community. Even if
Mhm.
you're not sure what your business is going to be,
Yeah.
start bringing people together for the purpose of belonging, for the purpose of empowering and lifting one another up, for the
Mhm.
purpose of collaborating. It doesn't have to be a part of your business plan, but like
Yeah.
start bringing people together because this is definitely going to be the difference maker in business and in the economy in the future, especially with
Mhm.
technology and everything else. Like start now. Don't
Yeah.
wait until you're successful to gather people. Start now.
Mhm. That's so good. I was having a conversation with my cousin earlier today, and she doesn't live in my state, but well, we're cousins, so since birth. But when we were younger, we were much closer. In the last few years, we've, gotten connected again through social media and all the things. And we were having some deep conversations about some things that are coming up. And she said, Angie, I have seen such a shift in you the last 4 or 5 years. She said, I remember back this time when she babysat for my children, which would have been about 25 years ago, when I wanted to talk to you about something that happened from our childhood and you shut me down. You were like, we're not going there. We're not talking about that. It's over, blah, blah, blah. And she said, for you to be able to talk about it now, I see so much growth in you. Like, I'm so thrilled that you've been able to, be coached and be in these mastermind groups and just be able to come outside of that and be able to unpack it basically. So what you were saying about how that in that darkness, people like they hide. That's exactly what I was doing.
A
Hiding,
hundred percent.
holding all those things back.
Yeah, 100%. And I think probably it's one of the reasons why you were attracted to me is because I'm not really ashamed to talk about anything.
Yeah.
I'm not ashamed to talk about, how I had sex when I was 16 and I was a good Mormon girl. Like we don't do that.
Yeah.
But I didn't have a father that was present. I had a father that was off, all around the world and had affairs and was mentally not stable, bless his heart. He passed away when he was 66. I share stories not because I want to share my dirt. I share stories like that because I want to talk about worth. Because guess what? I didn't feel like I was worthy. I didn't feel like
Mhm.
I was lovable. I didn't feel like I was enough. And so, whether I'm sharing that story or I'm sharing a story of how I lost a significant amount of business, but that I did that to myself. I made
Yeah.
the decisions. Like nobody did it to me. I made those decisions. And so, I'm willing to talk about those things. And some people might judge me, but the people that I'm supposed to work with, and please hear this if you're listening, you will be judged
Yeah.
and you will repel some people. And some people will not want to do business with you. They will not give you money. They will cut you off. They will think you're bad. If you say a cuss word, they're like, she's out. I don't know. Like
Yeah.
people will judge. But then there are some people who God is like, oh, thank goodness she's willing to be bold enough. Thank goodness she's willing to speak the truth of her experience. Thank
Mhm.
goodness, because there are people out there that need to hear your story and not the pretty one, not the one
Yeah.
that's like all, oh my gosh, because Angie and I could have come on here and just talked about all the reasons why I've made 8 figures as an entrepreneur.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what? I would be leaving out a huge part of that,
Yeah.
like the past. And so be real and don't share stuff just to share stuff. I just have to say this to get sympathy, to get attention, to get people on your side. Like
Mhm.
that's not the purpose. And Angie, I've seen you do such a beautiful job of sharing your story. None of it is for attention. None of it is to get people to feel sorry for you. Every time you share a story, it's to teach a principle. It's to
Mhm.
teach a truth. It's to help set people free.
Yeah.
God didn't create us to be perfect. He
Right.
created us to have experience. And it is through experience and especially shared experience that we can also help set other people free.
Mhm. Yes, I love that. So beautiful. And I was just thinking one of the things I was trying to think about what my cousin said to me today. She said, "The key to your future is coming to terms with your past." And I was like,
Yes,
"Oh, that's so good. Can I steal that quote?"
yes you can. You
Yeah,
absolutely can.
because it really like it impacted me when she said that. And I was like, wow, that's so good. Thank you
Mhm,
for that reminder. Because
mhm,
we basically grew up together as young kids. And
mhm.
yeah, so we know a lot of stuff about each other.
Yeah, you and I do. We know a lot of stuff about each other.
Yeah, yeah, we do.
A-
We're not
And the
sharing all that stuff today either.
yeah, yeah, but I think that honestly, those are the people that win in the marketplace.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
if you're just trying to come up with a really great strategy to grow your network marketing business or your coaching business, and you're just focusing on strategy, and there's no soul, there's not the realness, there's not the richness, there's not the depth there, you can
Mhm.
have some initial results. But what I
Yeah.
see in the industry is that people can have that initial bump, right?
Mhm.
But then because they're not really willing to be vulnerable and authentic and share what's working, what's not working, where they made mistakes, where they had wins, like, those are not the people that continue to grow and
Yeah,
expand, and so I love that about you, and I continue to like, strive to do that myself as I'm
yeah,
building businesses.
yeah. Well, you have done a great job at that, and I admire you, and I just love that we're doing so many things side by side, and all the things just make me so excited. And
Me
so let's talk about this for a second because I want to get into this too. Is that you are a retired nurse,
yes.
married to a physician, raising 6 kids. You've built multiple massive businesses. How did you build success without sacrificing your marriage and your family? I know that you're spending all this time with the kids, but like what are the nuts and bolts there, do you feel like?
Yeah, well, I always want to be really transparent here is that I did it wrong for a while. And I think if you're in a season where you're feeling like things are off and they're misaligned, you might be doing it wrong. Don't beat yourself up about it. Just really be honest with yourself about what's working and what's not working. And for
Mhm.
me back in the beginning, and my husband Thomas and I were talking about this the other day, actually. We were talking about the first 3 years of my business, I really worked 8, 10, 12-hour days in my business. And I could shame and guilt myself about that, except that I actually felt like when I felt compelled to do it, like God was like pushing me to
Mhm.
like run, go. And maybe you're listening and you're feeling that, right? And so I felt that for a couple of years, but there came a point where I felt like I need to make some changes and I didn't listen to that, right?
Mm.
Because sometimes it's a season where you are called to work really hard, and sometimes it becomes a problem. And
Yeah.
for me, it had become a problem. And so thankfully, we had a moment about 7, 8 years ago where I realized that, and I started to make some changes. And I think that the nuts and bolts of really what it takes is you have to decide, and you know this, Angie, I ask you guys all the time, is like, what kind of life do you want to build? Not what kind of business do you want to build? And when you're sitting down and writing your goals, I want you to write goals about how do you want it to feel in your home? How do you want it to feel in your relationship with your husband? How do you want it to feel in your body? How do you want your physical health to feel? What time do you want to start working in the morning? Where do you want to fit your workouts? Like, what do you want your weekends to be like with your family? And really starting to ideate about what kind of a life you want to build. Because most people, when I talk to them, they tell me their goals, and it's all money goals, business goals, rank up goals, client goals. It's like all that stuff. And it's like, that's great. But tell me what kind of life you want to build. Because if
Mhm.
we know the kind of life we want to build, then we can start building a business around our life. And I think that especially as women, we feel like we have to sacrifice because women are really good at sacrificing. I mean, we
Mhm.
sacrifice our bodies for 9 months while we grow a
Yeah.
baby. We
Yeah.
sacrifice our bodies while we nurse babies. Like, we
Mhm.
are really good at sacrificing, and
Yeah.
we're really good at being martyrs. But what if you didn't have to be successful that way? I think women fall into the martyr and the
Mhm.
sacrifice category so much easier. And what I decided to do was really define, and I want to invite you to do that. Define what you want your life to look like, what it feels like to live inside of your life, and then start to schedule when you're going to work around that. Okay, what
Mhm.
days am I going to do this in my business? And what days am I going to do that in my business? And what are my non negotiables, like my DMSs, my daily minimum standards in business, but also my DMSs for my physical health and my daily minimum standards for my husband, for our love and our connection. I can happily say, like, literally only 4% of people have sex at least 4 times a week. I said sex on your podcast. We're at
Totally
least
fine.
we're
All
at
about
least
it.
we're at least 5 or 6 times a week, okay? And we've been married almost 28 years. That doesn't happen on accident. It
Yeah.
happens because we have a DMS for how we connect, not just in that way, but we talk to each other, we walk and talk, we have this connection. And so stop just planning your business. Stop just
Mhm.
planning your work. Start planning what you want to do with your family, with your husband. And because you love your life and you're so obsessed with your life and you're creating this beautiful life, you'll have better energy. You'll bring that energy into your business. And what that taught me to do is it taught me to be really disciplined with my time. So
Yeah.
when I sit down to work for 3 or 4 hours, you better believe I can do more in 3 to 4 hours than most people will do in 3 to 4 days.
Yeah.
So I become very efficient. I become very disciplined. I broke up with perfectionism. I can write a Facebook post in 5 minutes. I can create a reel in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Again, that comes from practice, but it
Mhm.
more so than that comes from breaking up with perfection.
Yeah.
And so that's what I would say about like making it all work. And then the last thing I would say is communication, communication, communication.
Yeah.
The breakdown starts with families, with relationships, husbands, kids, because you're quietly trying to keep everything together as a woman. And you're trying to do like work 24/7, keep the house perfect, do all these things. You're taking on the weight of your team or your organization, and
Mhm.
you're not asking for help. You're not communicating. You're trying to be everything for everyone. And that comes to a breaking point. And so,
Yeah.
what I did many years ago is I started communicating and
Yeah.
I started delegating and offloading some things that team members could do, or that my kids, they could learn how to load the dishwasher and unload the dishwasher, and they
Yeah.
could learn how to fold laundry. And
Mhm.
I could say to my husband, I could really use your help with this, not when it got to the point where I was ticked off,
Yeah.
like communicating earlier,
Yeah.
because he wanted to help me. I just needed
Mhm.
to learn how to communicate. So I would
Yeah.
say for those of you women building businesses with families, ideate about what you want, build your business around your life, not your life around your business.
Yeah.
and communicate sooner and more frequently than you already are.
That's so good. And I would just add to that, like, one of the things that I have, been a student of you for is the whole getting my Google Calendar. Like, I don't know what calendars people use, but the whole Google that has helped me so much because, like, I've got so many hats, like everyone in the world, like I'm still homeschooling and I'm running my podcast and I'm running my business and I'm working for my husband and I wear the nanny hat. And when I can focus in on those things and know, like, Mondays, we're recording podcasts. Fridays, we're recording. Tuesdays and Thursdays, Ambrosetti construction all day long. Like, that's where my mind is. It has helped me so much. And like you said, I can get so much more done in that time because I'm not thinking about 13 other things that I need to be working on.
Mhm, mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and for women, especially, I think it's an unlearning, right?
Yeah.
Because especially women that are, raising families, having babies, like homeschooling, is you kind of have to be a multitasker through a lot of
Yeah.
those years.
Hmm.
And so we get into this habit, this routine, this pattern of multitasking that we actually feel is superior. And what happens as you get older is you actually become way less effective when
Yeah.
you're trying to multitask a list of 20 things in a day. And so it's unlearning this way that you've been and surrendering it. And it's kind of like, okay, like kicking and screaming. I'm not going to be a multitasker. I'm going to keep a calendar because I didn't used to keep a calendar either.
Yeah.
And now I live by my calendar and I feel so much more peace. It's
Hmm.
not chaotic. I know exactly what the days are for. And it gives me so much more time with my family. So if you're not
Yeah.
keeping a calendar, those of you listening in, it is time and it's free.
Yeah. Well, I was one of those people that always said, "Oh, I just fly by the seat of my pants." And I was missing things. Things weren't getting done. I was getting frustrated. My husband was getting frustrated, which is fair
Yes.
when I wasn't getting accomplished the things that needed to be. And then on the other thing that you said, for us, we really focus in on our love languages for one another. And so, yeah, our boys unload the dishwasher. I just sent messages to the house right before we get on our call. Switch the laundry. You got to start your laundry, get that done. But for us, like, there's a few things, like, his love language is he loves positive words of affirmation. He wants to be appreciated. And quite honestly, I never really gave that freely. I had an issue with it. We won't get into that, but my love language is acts of service. So, girl, he is cooking those steaks for me. He cooks every single night and I clean up because I want the kitchen clean and he cooks. But just figuring out where's the give and take
Yes. Yes.
and
And
communicating.
yeah, and deciding, if you're choosing to be an entrepreneur, you're choosing to have a business, I think it's really valuable. And it's fair to understand that there are things that your partner just loves that you do. And if you're going to change and kind of rewrite the rules in a lot of ways,
Mhm,
the way that I would describe it is like bring back little elements of like old Brooke or bring
mhm,
back little elements of old Angie, like some of those favorite things that made him fall in love with you or
mhm.
you fell in love with him. It's like it's totally normal and natural to grow, to change, and that's what you want in
Yeah,
relationship. You want to allow your partner to grow and your partner is support your growth, but there's always like little things that they just love that you've
yeah.
done since you were together. And Thomas and I got
Mhm,
married when I was 19, almost 20. I was so young, and so I remember like there's some things, there's nothing wrong with him for wanting to hang on to a couple things that are
yeah.
sweet and that like I've always done, whether it's something that I cook that I've been cooking for 27 years, like I'm
Mhm,
gonna bring that back out on a Sunday because that
yeah.
shows love, it shows awareness. And when I am willing and you, like you shared, are willing to show up in the love languages that really speak to them, they become more supportive. You get
Yeah.
what you want, ladies. Like instead of
Mhm,
complaining that your man doesn't support you, it's like thinking about like, okay, what does he really need and what really speaks to him in his love languages? And I'm going to focus on that and just watch as the support and the love increases.
yeah. Because 100% it definitely does. Sometimes it's the littlest things that you can say or you can do, or it's the look. And honestly, if he hears this, he'll be embarrassed. I'm gonna tell you anyway. So, and when I send him text messages, if I'll send him a little gif of something sexy, oh man, he's all about it. He's like, "You haven't sent me any sex gifs."
I know. But it's true. It's
Yeah.
so true. It's like it's really not rocket science, you guys.
Yeah.
It's I always think like you can be an absolute boss. You can be a successful woman and your man can feel loved and appreciated. It just takes a little bit of intentionality and a little bit of effort. And they're not a jerk for needing that. Like
Yeah.
I feel like all men, like they just want to be seen. They wanna be adored. They wanna know
Mhm.
that their woman is, like, crazy about them, and so
Yeah.
I try to do the same for my husband. If I'm looking extra cute, I'll take a little selfie or I'll do a little shimmy
Yeah.
because I want him to know, like, "Hey, I'm killing it up here. I'm doing my work, but you matter to me."
Yeah.
And it's that simple, ladies.
Yeah. 100%. Wow, this has been good and juicy. Now, I hope there's no explicit marks on here since we said the S word. Sure, it'll be totally fine. Oh my word.
You can beep
Wow.
it out. You can beep it out.
Okay, I'll tell Laura. Bleep this for me, will you? I have loved this so much today, and I just want to ask: is there anything else that you would just love to share with us today before we end the show today?
Just like I started the podcast, I want to be known as a woman who did what she was inspired to do. And I want to give you all that same call to action. I think there is nothing worse, or would be nothing worse, than getting to the end of your life and realizing that you were inspired to do something, that God told you to go for it, that you could have done something that you were just too afraid to do
Mm,
or you just felt like was too much because you were a mom or because you had a sick parent or because you didn't have the money or whatever it was, is like you have this beautiful opportunity to have a body, to be alive in such a time as this where you can literally build anything you want to. And what a tragedy to get to the end of your life and realize I was not obedient to the call. I was afraid. And because of that, I actually did not get to experience the fullness that was available to me in this life. I feel like there's something greater out there for every single one of you listening. Whether it's a massively successful business, I don't know. Maybe it's podcasting, maybe it's starting a service organization, maybe it's just being that person in the neighborhood that gathers people together to help them feel loved. Maybe it's writing a book. Like, I don't know what it is, but I know that there is something out there for you. And I don't want you to be afraid to go after it. I got this lesson, and you know this, Angie, from watching my dad and watching my dad die with so much regret. Regret over choices he'd made in his life, regret over the success he didn't have, regret over the things he didn't go after, regret
mhm.
after the things that he didn't do. And having lived that experience, I just said to myself, I don't care if I mess up. I'm gonna mess up. I'm gonna make
Yeah.
mistakes. Sometimes people aren't gonna like me, sometimes they're gonna like me, sometimes I'm gonna make a lot of money, sometimes I'm gonna lose a lot of money. Like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna make mistakes, but I am gonna be able to get to the end of this life and say, when I felt inspired, when I felt like God was telling me to move, whether it was profitable or not, whether I made mistakes or not, I did it. I tried. I lived,
Yeah.
like, I did the things, and I am telling you, it
Yeah.
is not as scary as you think it is. It is not as hard as you think it is. And once you start doing it and you start having that courage and putting yourself out there, the amount of freedom that you will feel is worth its weight in gold. And I know, Angie, you're experiencing that,
Yeah.
especially over this last year, year and a half. I've seen you really come alive and just the freedom and the impact that's happening because of that. So I just have to pass it back to you and say, I honor you. I love you. I love what you're doing. And this is just the beginning for you and of the massive impact you're going to have on hundreds of thousands of women's lives.
Thank you so much. Like, I needed to hear so much, well, everything that you said today, but thank you. I received that. And see, there's me growing, saying that I receive something complimentary that someone is handing over to me. So
Yes,
thank you
love
so
you.
much for coming on today. I know your schedule's super busy, but I appreciate you so much. And I'm just so grateful. So
Thank you for having me.
you're so welcome. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in today. And I'm sure I'm going to have some more excitement with my next guest that'll be coming up soon. So we'll see you next time on the Angie and Brooke Show. Bye bye.
That's it for today, friends. Thanks for tuning in with me today.
I hope today's episode stirred your soul, sparked your faith, and reminded you that your story is far from over. Keep walking in freedom, keep showing up bold, and never forget, God doesn't call the qualified, He qualifies the called. Be sure to leave a review, subscribe, or share this podcast with a friend who needs to hear it as well. Until next time, keep letting her out to play because the world needs your fire.